Are you white?
Yeah, full white. Jewish boy, full Jew.
You Jew?
Mom and dad both, yeah.
Oh, because normally
Grandparents,
white.
all full Jew.
Yeah.
They did surveys, which is interesting. They did a lot of surveys, and for some bizarre reason, a lot of the men in porn were Jewish. Jamie Gillis, Mark Stevens, Randy West, Herschel Savage, me. I can go on and on.
Why is
and
that?
the women almost never are.
Why are the men so into it?
And so women are not. You see very few porn stars that are Jewish. The men, I don't know. I mean, they like to perform. I guess they like to be actors. You know, my mom was a spy during World War II. It's in my autobiography. She was in the OSS, which became the CIA in late, I think it's 1950s, or late 49, I think. And so she was a decoder, cryptographer, spoke many languages, tough, but a wonderful, warm woman.
An additional 7 charges have been filed in the sexual assault case against adult film star Ron Jeremy. His case was amended today to add the new charges, including 3 new counts of forcible rape. Jeremy now faces charges connected to 23 alleged victims spanning from 1996 to 2020. One of the alleged incidents involves a 15-year-old girl. Jeremy pleaded not guilty to the new charges and is due back in court in December. If convicted on all counts, he faces a maximum sentence of 330 years to life in prison.
Jews in the adult industry, there's a lot of them. The adult industry was pretty much founded by the Jews. Basically, in the early 1900s, the German Jewish immigrants came in, and when they were trying to get into different industries, there was a lot of anti-Semitism where they couldn't get into normal lines of work. So they gravitated towards the porn industry because it's like kind of the seedier cousin of the Hollywood industry, which had already been controlled by the Jews. And basically they pretty much just took it over. If you look at the big stars, so basically back in the 1960s, 70s, it was founded by people like Danny Mamet, Danny Skura. And then later in the 80s, the godfather of the modern day porn industry, his name was Reuben Sterman, who was actually an Orthodox Jew. He owned over 200 bookstores all around the country. He's actually my godfather, which is kind of weird. Reuben Sterman, what the Jews did pretty much was they revolutionized the adult industry and made it their own. So there was no space for anti-Semitism, and they basically controlled everything. So back in the 80s, the only way you could get pornography was to go through someone like Reuben Sterman, and he controlled, all of his stores and all the stores that he didn't own. They actually had to pay him a tax to carry his product, and he was the only place that you could get product from, peep shows from. And later, what the Jews did was they started the manufacturing end of the business. There were a lot of Italians that were coming into the business, but what they did was they created the manufacturing side, which is the replication, the printing, because back in the day, if you wanted to make a VHS or a beta tape or whatever, you couldn't go down to Kinko's or any mainstream printer and be like, I want to print, Gang Bang My Mom #3 or something. So what they did was they created all these companies that manufactured DVDs and VHS and beta and printing, and all the companies pretty much had to go through the Jews. Reuben Sterman, actually, eventually he died in prison. They tried to get him from obscenity back in the 80s, which was a big thing. And it actually still is. There is an obscenity arrest today. But he eventually died in prison because of tax evasion, because he didn't want to pay taxes. Back in the 70s, the majority of the male porn performers were Jewish, and the majority of the female performers were Roman Catholic. And if you look at the names from like the classic porn stars, you got Ron Jeremy, which isn't really Jewish, but you have Herschel Savage. It's kind of funny because those guys came into the industry, and I actually asked a couple of them, because I asked Ron Jeremy, and I was like, why did you guys, decided to go into the porn industry, like, what was it that drew you? And besides, like, the obvious, you're like, I got to fuck Roman Catholic chicks. And fulfill, like, every fantasy that every Jewish boy has ever had. So, I think the Jewish performers, they've always been really prevalent in the industry, and even now Ron Jeremy is still, you know, like one of the most well-known performers. James Dean, Joanna Angel, there's Daphne Rosen, there's a bunch of them. And for the most part, the business side is still controlled by Jews. You have Steve Hirsch, who runs Vivid. You have Steve Orenstein, who runs Wicked. You have me, who runs the biggest porn company in the world. Second biggest. But for the most part, you know, all the business owners are pretty much Jewish or have Jewish ties or at some point worked for a Jew in the porn business or getting their start.
Ruben Sturman was an American pornographer and businessman from Cleveland, Ohio. Though most people know the powerful porn advocators Hugh Hefner and Larry Flynt, the man who played a far more pivotal role in the shaping of America's sex industry has remained largely unknown to the public. Ruben Sturman dominated the production and distribution of porn not only in the United States, but also throughout most of the world. Sturman simply did not just control the adult entertainment industry, he was the industry. Born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio, Sturman entered into the business realm at a young age, selling comic books out of the trunk of his car. However, by the late 1950s, his little production had grown into a large-scale business with warehouses in 8 major cities. After a suggestion from an employee, the company began to sell a few sex magazines. Much to his surprise, those few magazines produced 20 times the revenue he was making on his comic books. At this point, Sturman's business focus began to shift. By the 1960s, Sturman's sex magazine retail business had boomed. He was one of the largest publishers and perhaps the largest distributor of sex magazines. With the vision of hardcore porn on videotape, Sturman's empire had spread throughout all 50 states and into 40 foreign countries.
Publisher Ruben Sturman not only controlled the American porn industry, he was the industry. Notoriously private and camera-shy, he employed over 20 aliases. His legal battles with the federal government included suing J. Edgar Hoover. In 1971, he visited Stockholm to acquire Lasse Braun's now infamous films for his revolutionary new invention, the peep show booth.
Originally there were machines. He actually called them machines. So it was a little machine with a projector inside, a little mirror here, and a little thing here, a viewer. And so they could just put the 25 cents and then look at this. Then he understood immediately that these people were having a hard-on, the male. So he said, well, let's cover them and put a little Kleenex box there. So then they become boots.
They were timed. They just had a timer in them. They could adjust the time, so you saw 1 minute for 10 cents or whatever. The film was notched when they wanted it to stop, and a micro switch would stop it. And then you put your next money in, it would show the next one and come to the micro switch.
Now let's see what we can do to transfer the revolution to America.
Sturman's creation, the pay and spray booth as it became known, hit the jackpot, taking billions of dollars in an endless stream of 25-cent pieces. Some 10 years ahead of the video age, Sturman's booths delivered the solitary sexual experience.
Saqueador da metrópole tenaz, de toda esperança, estuporador da ilusão. Ó meu semelhante, filho de Deus, meu irmão.
give my very fucking best. When I eat pussy, when I lick asshole, I try to be a good hump. I try to give you the best writings and insights into what makes Al Goldstein. Al Goldstein's a fucking legend. How many people legalized pornography? I changed the law. My fucking arrest in Wichita, Kansas. I'm the one who's still convicted of showing pubic hair in 1971. Everyone else is carrion, is a parasite. I changed the fucking law. I mean, for that I can always get high regard and high esteem for being a flesh pioneer.
Pornhub is the largest and most popular porn site in the world. Owned by the megaporn parent company MindGeek, Pornhub averages 42 billion visits per year. That's 115 million visits every day. Most of the content featured on their site is user-generated, amassing 6 million new videos each year. That would take 169 years to watch. Pornhub has become the global epicenter of internet pornography. The company makes hundreds of millions of dollars through ad revenue, data collection, and premium subscriptions. And it's blatantly enabling and profiting from rape, sexual abuse, and child sex trafficking. Like the missing 15-year-old girl who was found after 58 videos of her rape were posted on Pornhub. Or Rose Kalemba, the 14-year-old, who the BBC reported was kidnapped at knife point, raped and assaulted on camera for 12 hours, and had to beg Pornhub for months and threaten legal action to remove the videos of her rape and torture. Or the images of a toddler being sexually abused, found through an investigation by the Sunday Times. Or the 22 women who were deceived and coerced by the producers of Girls Do Porn, a popular Pornhub partner channel, whose owners now face a federal indictment for child pornography, sex trafficking of a minor, sex trafficking, and sexual abuse. These examples only begin to scratch the surface of the sexual crimes found on Pornhub. According to the Internet Watch Foundation, in only 2 years, they processed and confirmed 118 cases of child rape and trafficking on Pornhub. These aren't models or actresses playing a role in a movie. These are real videos of women and children being sexually abused, violated, and traumatized. And Pornhub is deeply complicit. They have no system to reliably verify the age or consent of anyone featured in their videos it profits from. The largest porn site in the world makes it insanely easy for users to upload videos of real sexual violence, and in doing so, they forever memorialize the trauma of their victims, all for the profit and pleasure of Pornhub and its users. It's time to shut down Pornhub and hold them accountable for the rape, trafficking, and sexual abuse that they enable and profit from. Share this video and sign a petition at traffickinghub.com.